Keep yourself in the loop of everything football. Listen to Alex and Jeremiah on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Hello there, I'm Jeremiah.
I am Alex, always and forever here.
Dedicated to college and NFL football. The latest football news on and off the field. NFL draft trade rumors. We've got you covered from the NFL, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC, and everything else in between. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, where we discuss the latest news, rumors, and games of the NFL and college football. From the latest science dishes, breakout stars, and all the news in between, as always, I'm Jeremiah.
My name is Ben.
And I am Anthony.
And we're back with another episode on another lovely Friday.
It's the last episode of 2016.
Yes, the last episode of 2K16, 2016, however you want to call it, 2016. So, I kind of think 2016 was kind of a pretty bad year in the world of pop culture and all that.
Well, it didn't end really well.
It hasn't. It hasn't been a pretty few days, to say the least, when you're talking about the last week of 2016. Yeah, there was Christmas, but yeah, a few days after Christmas, yeah, we had a few kind of sad days.
We had George Michael.
Christmas.
Die on Christmas.
He died on Christmas.
Okay, here's the irony here. He was part of Wham that made Last Christmas. This was George Michael's last Christmas.
Wow, you just blow my mind.
Because he died on Christmas.
I get that. You know what? That's too soon, Ben. And then
I didn't want to do it.
I know, but that's too soon. And then the day after, the 26th, Carrie Fisher, who plays Princess Leia, probably one of the most iconic roles in all cinema and Star Wars, passed away.
And then her mom died.
Exactly, too. Debbie Reynolds, that literally day after. So I was like, how does this all happen?
Well, that's like a broken heart, basically. It happens in
threes, so that's what happens. Yeah, they say.
But like, there's also a lot of tragic deaths in the world of football as well. There was Will Smith, the former New Orleans Saints defensive player. You know how we all turned out, and Buddy Ryan. And I'm forgetting one.
Denny Green died. Former coach of the Vikings, Cardinals. We are who we thought they were. Famous rant. He died as well. So I actually had a chance to meet him before. He's actually a nice guy. Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
I met him at a Kings game.
Did you? But how long ago was this?
This was a while ago. This was maybe like 7-8 years ago.
Oh,
so it was after he retired.
Was it when he was a coach of the Sacramento Mountain Lions? Was around that time, or
no? It was a little before that.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, he unfortunately did die this year as well. So a lot of unfortunate deaths, but there's only two guarantees in life, and it is death and taxes. So we do have to die eventually. It's still very unfortunate. But anyways, guys, we are going to move on to some more positive news. Week 17, the last week of the regular season in the NFL. So unfortunately, we are winding down here. But we still have a few games with really serious playoff implications that are very, very important. There's no game more important this weekend than the Sunday night matchup. The Green Bay Packers going into Ford Field to take on the Detroit Lions. The winner will be the champions of the NFC North and host a playoff game next week. The loser still has a shot to get in, but they will need some help. Washington, with a win over the Giants, will be in. That is, unless the Packers and Lions tie, which, we've seen a couple of them this year. Nothing is literally, not going to happen. No, it could happen,
Yeah, pretty much.
They're telling me there's a chance. There's a small chance.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a small one, but I don't think it'll happen. But anyways, guys, let's preview Detroit and Green Bay. Green Bay riding high, 5-game winning streak. Detroit really struggling down the stretch. Lost their last two games to a couple of playoff teams, being the Giants and the Cowboys. Packers are playing absolutely fantastic. Aaron Rodgers looks like he is back. The defense is healthy at the right time. I really don't see how Green Bay loses this game, guys.
Yeah, I don't either. Green Bay looks like they're getting hot at the right time. They're playing playoff football literally since November. They were under 500, and then a couple people rolled them off. I didn't. I kind of feel like they had the talent to kind of make a playoff run here. But at the time, Detroit was still the division leader, and then they were looked at as possibly a Super Bowl like a contender. I wasn't that sold on Detroit. Like, I knew they were a playoff team, but I didn't think they were good enough to make a Super Bowl run because of the Green Bay Packers. And I think the fact that, Green Bay has played so well in the last pretty much month and a half, I just can't see how they can lose now. I feel like they put everything together. And then the biggest problem for the Packers this year was running the ball. They finally have a running back, in my opinion, in Ty Montgomery. I feel like he's like the running back for right now. The way remember, Ty Montgomery did play running back and receiver in college, so it kind of came easy for him. Since they finally know how to run the ball, Devontae Adams has emerged as probably one of the top 2 targets in this passing game. Jordy Nelson, ended an incredible year in this comeback year. Then I can't really write the Packers off anymore. And I do think the fact that they played a little bit better defense and they can run the ball now, I just can't see why they can lose. And Detroit, I don't know, they kind of fallen off past couple of weeks. They're just not the same team that they were in the first 2 months of the season. They just haven't looked that good to me. So I do think Packers are going to win.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same thing. The Packers, Aaron Rodgers in the last 5 games where they've won, he's 14 touchdowns or 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 14. If you go back to the week before that, he's basically been what you ever wanted Aaron Rodgers to be, and now Jordy Nelson's actually come back to being Jordy Nelson, because up until November 13th against the Titans, from then on, he's had 4 games where he's had over 100 yards receiving and another one with 91. He's basically been the guy that Aaron Rodgers has needed him to be. And it's something where now with the Packers, they look like the team that they were back in 2009, I think it was, when they won the Super Bowl. They looked like that kind of team again, where it's not necessarily that they're the best team in the NFL. They're just the one doing the most at the right time, a la what the Giants have done in the past, what the Ravens did a couple of years ago. Like, it's one of those things where, like, they're just going to win these games to the very end, and it doesn't look like anything's going to stop them. And the Lions, yeah, they had the division lead for a while, but all the games that they had, they were winning these games like really, really close, because they had, so the Vikings 16-13, the Jaguars 26-19, the Vikings 22-16. They lost to the Texans 20-13. They beat the Redskins 20-17, 31-28 Rams, 24-23 Eagles, 17-14 Bears, 34-27 Packers, and 16-15 Titans, and 39-35. So all these games for a good 2 or 3 months were just always within a touchdown, like every single game. And to their credit, they won the majority of them, but they never looked like a team that was dominant, because they just would always have these really, really close games, to where now with the Packers are kind of showing us a little bit like a team that actually has a chance to make it to the Super Bowl. To with the Lions, it just looks like they're going to be a team that kind of makes it to the playoffs, if they do make it, that they just probably get bounced out in the first round.
Yeah, and but I would not count the Lions out in any way. They're one of those teams that has multiple comeback victories this year. And I just want to let you guys know, if this ends up in the tie, both of these teams are in.
Right. So that part's fun.
That's maybe there'll be some scheming below, like, hey, we're just gonna play to a 0-0 tie. We'll both get in. Does that sound good to you? Like, we won't
Does that sound good to you guys?
Like, if it's like 24-24 with like 3 minutes to go, it's like, we're just gonna kneel down. Oh, you're gonna take it? No, the whole game. The rest of the game and overtime, knees. Whole time.
We'll just play in a tie. We're both happy. We don't have to worry about, because Washington won already.
We don't have to worry about injuries. We don't have to worry about injuries and all that.
They're just gonna calm it down. But no, I really do like Green Bay. I mean, in games where their defense gives up 30 points or less, they've only lost 1 game. Detroit, kind of no running game at all. You're going to have to worry about the passing game. The Packers secondary is getting healthy at the right time. Detroit's is still a little banged up. You have Darius Slay, who is questionable with a hamstring injury. If he can't go for them, that's going to be a big loss. He's one of their top cornerbacks for sure, one of the best in the NFL, and he would have to match up against Jordan Nelson, which is definitely not anything easy. So I'll give the edge to Green Bay. A couple other games here. If the Raiders do beat the Broncos, they will have number 2 in the AFC wrapped up and the AFC West crown. The Broncos will be turning to Paxton Lynch to start on Sunday. The young quarterback, give him some more playing time, obviously. Trevor Siemian hasn't done terrible, but he hasn't really been standout as the standout future of the Denver Broncos passing attack. The Kansas City Chiefs will be on the road to face the Chargers. If the Chiefs win and the Raiders lose, then the Chiefs have number 2 in the AFC and that first-round bye, which is, in my opinion, really important. The Raiders can get that first-round bye, give Matt McGloin more time to start and give him some more preparation with the number ones for the Oakland Raiders offense. That'd be big, but I don't see it happening. I think Denver will be able to beat Oakland, and I think Kansas City will defeat the Chargers. I just don't have much faith in Matt McGloin and the Raiders offense going on the road to face a top defense, the top 2 cornerback matchups with Aqib Talib and Chris Harris. You also have, in my eyes, they might be a little sort of defeated still. You have them dealing without their starting quarterback, their leader of their team now, in Derek Carr. I think they might be a little down in the dumps still thinking about that, and it might affect them against the Broncos. But I don't think any way that the Chiefs lose against against the Chargers. They're playing absolutely fantastic. A huge win last week on Christmas against those Broncos. Tyreek Hill is dynamic. Travis Kelce is emerging, in my eyes, as really the second best tight end of football, and I just don't see how they can be stopped.
Yeah, and I really do agree that Travis Kelce is emerging as the number 2 tight end. He just has been phenomenal the past month and a half.
I give a healthy Gronk the edge, but I mean Gronk is out and he has a history of injuries, so you might say Travis Kelce is.
And Travis Kelce has helped out this Kansas City Chiefs offense so much, especially with a quarterback like Alex Smith, who's been historically known as Captain Checkdown since his days in San Francisco. I love the way Tyreek Hill plays. He's just so dynamic. And I think, honestly, the way that the Kansas City Chiefs play, no matter if they get that bye or not, I actually can see them as a very serious Super Bowl contender. I think they're one of the 2 teams that can compete with New England or happen to possibly beat New England and Foxborough. But I don't think they're going to get that second round bye, guys. I do see the Chiefs beating the Chargers, but I can't write off the Raiders just yet. I think they're going to just pull it out just enough to win in Mile High Stadium. And I know they looked defeated last week, but I just feel like they're going to play for Derek Carr right now. And then Matt McGloin, and I know, he has, it's Matt McGloin, but I was looking at games where when he started in 2013, I was watching highlights and during his starts there, he actually looked really good. Actually, he just didn't have anything around him. There's a lot better team around him. He has probably the second best offensive line. He has Michael Crabtree, Amari Cooper, really 2 elite receivers in my opinion, and they have a 3-headed monster running back there. So I think Matt McGloin is going to be really okay. I think he's going to be fine. And then when I was looking, and you're giving me that look right now, Ben.
Well, look at the defense he's going to play.
And I know that. And I put that in account. I put that in account, okay? I did. And I know that, he's playing really good defense, but you got to think about what the Raiders defense is playing against as well. They're playing a very anemic offense they haven't been able to run the ball well. They have a rookie quarterback. And then you got to think about what the Raiders defense has done. Recently they got better throughout the whole entire year. They're more sound. They got probably one of the best edge rushers in the game, Khalil Mack. So I think the Raiders are going to play really well on defense due to the fact they're playing such a anemic offense in Denver. So I do think this is going to be a really good defensive game, and I do think Raiders are going to pull it out just barely in a very tight defensive matchup.
So none of you are giving a chance for the Chargers in their possible last game in San Diego. No, kind of like that. Let's rally the troops. Let's go.
No, don't worry. I thought about that, but then I'm like, they're playing the Chiefs, a team that I can see in the Super Bowl. That's why I can't take them there.
Also, they just lost to the Browns.
See, that is a good point. See that right there.
Hey,
the Browns.
You know what, though? I got to say something about that.
Sure.
Okay, I kept saying about the Browns' first win. I said, if they don't get against Cincinnati, then it's probably going to happen on Christmas Eve. And I was right.
Did you say that, or are you just saying that now because it makes it...
No, I said it like a week. I said, no, not a week. I said about a couple months ago. Just re-listen to the episodes, guys.
Okay.
Re-listen to all of them.
But you could say because they lost to the Browns, now they're very sad. They're very ashamed. We're not going to go out on 2 losses. One of the Browns. We need to win the last game of the season. We need to win in San Diego. I don't believe what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say words right now. But, yeah, I'm with the Chiefs to win the game. And unfortunately, Matt McGloin, he's not terrible, and he does have a good offensive line, and Amari Cooper and Murray and Washington and everything else. Also, Von Miller.
Yeah, I know that. But you got to think about what the Denver Broncos offense has to deal with as well. they're not. It's not like they're playing like
that's fine.
It's not like they're playing like
that's fine.
Peyton Manning like from 2013 when he had 55 touchdowns. They're not playing that kind of offense. They're playing Paxton Lynch, a rookie quarterback that hasn't looked good in his 2 starts, and then they haven't been able to run the ball like for I don't know like since like September. Like I don't remember the last time that a running back has looked good in this offense.
Right. No,
and the offensive line hasn't. It's been really messy as well. So you got to think about the offense that the Broncos are going on the field with. So that's why I see this as more of a tight defensive game. I think they're playing really 2 young quarterbacks, but I just feel like I kind of want to give the edge to the Raiders because they are better at running the football.
It makes sense. I mean, I think it'll be a low-scoring game as well. I just think Denver's defense will make one more play than Oakland's, possibly a pick 6, a fumble return for a touchdown. We've seen the Broncos win games on that this year.
Yeah, and I know that, but I have to, at this time, you have to give the edge to teams that can run the football and play really sound defense, and I have to give that to Oakland. They just look like a really good team running the football in the past couple of weeks.
We'll have to see. We'll have to find out on Monday. Obviously, these games being on Sunday, so we'll find out. But we'll take our first break at the show. After the break, we'll talk college football. A lot of big, interesting storylines in college football. We have to talk about the national semifinals. We have the Capital One Orange Bowl tonight, as well as recap some of the games in the last couple of days. We'll be right back after the break.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA. From the UFC to extreme cage fighting, they got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Yesterday, a couple of good college football bowl games. Oklahoma State absolutely destroys number 10 Colorado in the Valero Alamo Bowl. It was 38-8. Oklahoma State was up 31-0 at the time. Colorado gets a touchdown late, then Oklahoma State gets another touchdown to win by 30. Buffalo is a really good season, 10-4, but they ended on a really sour note, getting blown out in the bowl game. And then number 22 Virginia Tech overcomes a 24-point halftime deficit to Arkansas to top the Razorbacks 35-24. It was the largest comeback in school history by Virginia Tech. For Arkansas, there was one player who did not play in the game. His name is Jeremy Sprinkle. Jeremy Sprinkle was suspended last night for the game for, of all things, shoplifting. This was the Belk Bowl. Belk is a department store. Obviously, we don't have it here in Sacramento, Jeremiah. So Anthony and I looked it up prior to the show, and it's a department store. Picture like a JCPenney's, a Macy's, Kohl's.
It's okay. So it's one of those. Okay.
Picture like where you get clothes, shoes. You can get like bedding items.
So it's
plates.
A clothing retailer.
Yeah. Kind of like a Kohl's. Picture like a Kohl's. Okay. So prior to this game, Belk gave both teams, each players, a $450 gift card to spend at the store, which
not a violation.
Kind of surprised it's not a violation, but anyways, they had 90 minutes in the store on Tuesday to try and spend their gift card, $450 worth. So tight end of Arkansas, Jeremy Sprinkle, was suspended for the game for, of all things, shoplifting from a Belk department store. So he had too much items than his $450 gift card would allow him to buy, over $260 more. So a couple of shirts, some socks, a couple of wallets. I don't know why you'd really need 2 wallets.
Because at that point, why not?
But anyways,
hey, why not? Hey, why does 2 Chainz have 2 chains? Because why not?
But anyway, so he gets suspended for the game from shoplifting from the department store that the bowl game is sponsored by, that he was given a gift card to. Thoughts?
That's very unbelievable. I believe that happened. It's just that when I think of the name Sprinkle as your last name,
Jeremy Sprinkle,
I can see him going to the store and saying "Sprinkle me, man," in the E40 voice. I'm sorry, I had to get that out there. But anyways, like this is a very, very, very unbelievable story.
It's something.
He had a decent year. 33 catches, 380 yards, 4 touchdowns. So he's kind of a big part of Arkansas.
And I can. No, okay. Since he got a little bit extra stuff that kind of went over the limits of $450, that was just practically a lot of money for the average person to spend at a department store. By the way, like if I had a $450 gift card, I don't even know if I can spend it in one day. I would save it. But anyways, that's just me. I just gotta say, how are you gonna do that, man? And why do you need 2 wallets?
Well, no, it's one of those things that, like, the 2 wallets thing is kind of weird.
But you know what though? Then again, when he asked why do you need 2 wallets, you gotta ask why does Kevin Gates need 2 phones? But anyway,
he's like one of those things that, like, so I equated it to something like, okay, you know how when you're a senior, you have your senior ditch day, right? Which isn't official, but fine. Like they give you basically. Like, there's a day whenever you do it, or you have, like, your senior trip at the end of the year, right? Very end of the year, and they give you that day where it's like, okay, cool, we're going to go over here, we're going to do this. And if you get in trouble on that senior day where you could basically go and do whatever you want to, like, we're already giving you these kind of, like, extra things. Stop being extra and doing more things and getting in more trouble. Like, he gave him $450 and said, here, this is for you. You spend this, go nuts, 90 minutes, have fun. And he's like, nah. Because it wasn't like it was like $450 and he spent like $470 and like one extra thing was in his bag. Okay, we make mistakes. Maybe you put one extra thing in the bag that went off. Fine. Like, that happens. No, it was like, what, $290 or something like that?
He knowingly shoplifted.
Yeah, he legitimately was just like...
So how did they know he shoplifted? Like, how did he get caught? Did he just happen to walk out of the store with it?
Yeah, he was walking out. He had it hidden. The police arrested him and everything. He's been released since then, but... The college suspended him from the game and everything.
Why do you need that extra stuff that's so bad? Like,
well, I mean, I get it. Like, why do people shoplift in general? They're not as fortunate as some others. You know, thought he'd get away with it. I understand it, but
I'm not either, and I don't shoplift. Like, come on. Like,
I mean, some people are just cut from different molds. You never know. I mean, there's people that do different things for different reasons all the time. We just never really have any way of getting inside people's brains and stuff. I'm not saying he's like a sociopath or anything. Probably just a guy who made stupid mistakes. But
I want to see
it happens.
Like, I want, and they don't have this probably, but like I want to hear the audio conversation, whether it was through phone or whether they did it face to face, of telling Brett Bielema, like, hey, your guy Sprinkle, yeah, good tight end. What about him? We arrested him for what? Shoplifting. Where did he shoplift? From Belk? No, we were just there. Yeah, he took more than what he was supposed to take. What? Like, I want that conversation.
Honestly, though, he has been a really significant part of Arkansas, and it kind of showed last night. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, he's ranked as, according to some scouts, the 7th best tight end to come out this year in the draft. You have to sort of imagine that maybe his off the field antics here will probably hurt his draft stock if possible.
That might have him go undrafted, because tight ends like this year are not. They don't get drafted a lot as some other positions, so that might actually get him undrafted.
It's possible, but one game which will feature a lot of draft picks come this next year's NFL draft will be the Capital One Orange Bowl tonight. Number 6 Michigan from the Big Ten against number 11 Florida State from the ACC. I'm going to give the edge to the Wolverines, guys. I think their defense will be able to slow down Dalvin Cook and the rushing attack for Florida State. Dalvin Cook over 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns this year. He's also the career leader in rushing at Florida State now. He's going to be a focal point of this offense. Michigan's going to be looking to slow him down, put more pressure on freshman quarterback DeAndre Francois. And I think that'll be the edge. I think it'll be a low-scoring game probably in the 20s. Michigan wins it close.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to give the edge to Michigan as well, because you said it's with the freshman quarterback and DeAndre Francois, I think that's going to make a huge difference. With the inexperience, they're playing a team that I think should have been or could have been in the playoffs for that matter. When they're going to ride the game plan heavily on Dalvin Cook, it's pretty much expected that they're going to run the ball with Dalvin Cook like practically in the majority of the game. So that's going to hurt DeAndre Francois, then it's going to fall back on him. So I think that's the fact that they're going to perhaps contain Cook, and it's going to affect Francois as well. But, Michigan's been one of the top defense, all year. So I wouldn't be surprised for them to be sloppy now.
Yeah, this game is going to be a fun game just because we have two teams that going into the year we thought had a pretty good chance of making it to the national championship in Michigan and Florida State. Sorry, I almost sneezed right there. And, you talked about Michigan's defense being one of the better ones in the nation. You got, Dalvin Cook right there basically trying to do everything he can, and he probably will be able to help them out to a certain degree. But Michigan, outside of the game against Iowa, which they kind of, fumbled a little bit, they've been one of the best teams in college football all year. Jim Harbaugh has been slowly making the team a little bit better. Last year they lost 3 games. This year, if they win this, down to 2. Maybe next year they finally get that Ohio State win and they make it to the college football playoffs. Florida State's just kind of been up and down all year. They had some good, start, and then they kind of fumbled a little bit. I see Michigan basically advancing in this game, getting to 11 wins, if you want to include like the bowl game as another win, getting to 11 wins and basically kind of setting them up next year to make an actual national championship run finally.
I think if you give Jim Harbaugh a month to prepare for most teams,
that too, and then that kind of plays a part as well. And before we move on, I gotta say, Florida State's been really inconsistent this year. That's all I can say about that team.
Yeah, they've been.
And the other 2 big games coming up will be the games tomorrow, the national semifinal games. Number 4, Washington will battle number 1, Alabama, in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And number 3, Ohio State will battle number 2, Clemson, in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl. We'll start with Alabama and Washington in the Peach Bowl. The spread is 13.5 for me. The question is, can Washington win the spread game? Because I don't give them much of a shot in beating Alabama head-to-head. Jake Browning's been decent. Myles Gaskin and John Ross, good playmakers for Washington, but I think sort of their youth and in sort of inconsistencies in games against big-name opponents, like against USC earlier this year, had a tough battle against Colorado in the Pac-12 title game, I should say. So sort of inconsistencies against good teams I think will probably hurt them. They're a little young. I'll give the edge to Alabama. This defense is historically good. Jalen Hurts adds a different element in the passing game because he can run the ball as well for Alabama. I'll give them the edge. I don't see how Washington wins.
Yeah, I have to give I'm not giving the edge. I'm practically giving them
You're giving them the game.
I'm giving them the game. I'm giving Alabama the game. And all year I said that Washington, I felt like their youth was going to hurt them if they happened to make the playoffs. I didn't think they were ready to make the playoffs, honestly. I just couldn't see them as a playoff team, but they're one of the few teams with 1 loss this year, so that really helped them out a little bit. And then they had a really weak schedule, in my opinion. And don't get me wrong, they had a phenomenal year. Jake Browning had 42 touchdowns. He had a really good, youthful offense. But, Jake Browning he looked pretty bad in that Pac-12 game. I know they won big in that game, but he looked pretty terrible. That's probably one of the worst games he's played. And then when he looked that bad against an opponent like Colorado, I can't see him do any well against a defense like Alabama. Myles Gaskin has been, I think, one of my favorite running backs to watch this year. But, Alabama, they stopped the run so well. And for that, I just can't give Washington any chance. I honestly think they're a year away from being a real serious national championship contender. It's just that I just think their youth is going to... I just don't think they're ready for that kind of, matchup yet.
Yeah, and that's fine. They're basically not going to be the team that you would hope they would be to knock off Alabama. But, it's one of the things where, okay, cool, you'd have Jake Browning coming back next year. And if you can get at least some success against Nick Saban, Nick Saban's probably the best college coach of all time, and you give him a month like you were talking about with Jim Harbaugh, you give him a month to basically prepare for a quarterback who's not mobile, who's someone who just sits in the pocket and is very, very good at it. Obviously, he was in the Heisman race for a lot of the year until he kind of fell off against USC or whoever else. You give Nick Saban this amount of time, and 13.5 seems high, but out of the last, 4 years or something like that, the only time we've ever seen Alabama basically not look like Alabama, outside of maybe 1 week where they just, lose by a couple of points to an SEC team, the only time we haven't seen them be an Alabama kind of team was against Ohio State, which had probably the second best coach in the last 20 years in Urban Meyer. And like you said, we talked, you give them this amount of time, and 13.5 seems high, but I can see it being one of those games where even at halftime, it's maybe something 17-3, and it's oh, okay, cool, they got a chance. And then you look up and it's all of a sudden 31-10, and you're oh, okay, cool, no, they're done.
Yeah, and then I just want to say Jalen Hurts has been phenomenal this year. At the beginning of the year, I wasn't really sold on him because he was a freshman, but he adds such a different element to this game, and I think he's going to get even better, which is scary for an Alabama team.
Yeah, he was the offensive player of the year in the SEC as just a freshman. I think he'll maybe take a drop a little bit. He's going to lose Lane Kiffin, but obviously Steve Sarkisian is another good offensive mind, so Alabama just a step ahead of all of us when they hired him at the beginning of the season to be technically like a special advisor, basically like an offensive coordinator in waiting in my eyes, which is now going to be the case. So, I mean, Saban and the rest of those guys at Alabama are just a step ahead of everyone. The other national semifinal matchup is the number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes against the number 2 Clemson Tigers. I like Ohio State in this game, guys. Clemson has been too up and down for me this year. Deshaun Watson will have his top target in Mike Williams back at the receiver position. 1,171 yards and 10 touchdowns for Williams. Deshaun Watson, we saw what he did last year against Alabama, almost single-handedly winning Clemson the national title in that shootout classic game last year. But I think Ohio State is just a better team this year. I have more faith in them. Clemson, too, up and down this year, battled a lot of tough teams, win some games convincingly, win some games unconvincingly. Ohio State, kind of the opposite the last few weeks of the year, ever since their loss to Penn State and then that sort of close game to Northwestern. I like Ohio State. Urban Meyer, a great coach. Dabo Swinney's a great coach as well, but I like Urban Meyer in these matchups. I think he and JT Barrett and the rest of this team will do enough to defeat Clemson. I think this will be a shootout. I really do. I think both teams score in the 30s, and Ohio State makes one more play than Clemson does to win them the game.
Yeah, and Clemson has they are the number 2 team in the country, but the fact that their one loss is to a Pittsburgh team, and then Ohio State Buckeyes one loss is to a really good Penn State team, who was the Big Ten champion, by the way, that says a lot to me. That says a lot to me what these teams the year that these teams have had. And on paper, the Clemson Tigers do have a better offense. Deshaun Watson had over 37 touchdowns passing, not just passing. But JT Barrett, I think, is probably just as good as Deshaun Watson. But Ohio State, we just talked about it. They have practically the second best coach in college football, and Urban Meyer really is big time in these games. His teams always come out big in these type of games, and for that, I'm gonna have to give the edge to Ohio State. But I do expect this to be one of the best entertaining games of the weekend as well. I think this is going to be a really good game.
I think it'll be better than the other one too.
I think it will be a lot more better than the Peach Bowl.
Yeah, no, I think with this game, you talked about how good Urban Meyer is and how, I think we all kind of want to see, nothing against Washington and nothing against Clemson. If that's a national championship, that'll still be a really good national championship game. But we kind of want to see Nick Saban, we kind of want to see Urban Meyer face each other. Because they did that a couple years back in the semifinal game, but to have this one basically have a coach with 5 titles, one with 3 titles, basically kind of decide, like, okay, cool, which one of you guys is basically going to, because Nick Saban wins 6, I think that's more than Bear Bryant, and that all of a sudden elevates him to another level. And if Urban Meyer can get to 4, then he's right behind Nick Saban. And with this game with Clemson, Clemson has only had 1 loss, and they've looked, in some parts, like a really, really talented team throughout the year, and then in some games they kind of hesitated. They started off the season a little bit shakish, not exactly what you want for them, but I mean, they beat Louisville when they were rolling, they beat FSU, they beat Virginia Tech at the end of the year, which we just saw basically come back from being down, I think it was 24 points at the half or something like that. And they they've been a really good team, but I got to go with Ohio State, who's basically, outside of like one hiccup against, I think it was Penn State, they've been a really good team the whole year, top 4 team basically the entirety of the season. Like you said, even though they're not the conference champion, but that just because they lost a conference game and they have tiebreakers and everything else. And
Ohio State has played, I think, probably one of the most competitive conferences this year.
Yeah.
And Clemson, they were in the ACC. It's just as competitive, but the Big Ten's a little bit.
Big Ten's got more. Big Ten has some better.
They have a lot more better programs.
Wisconsin, Nebraska, people like that.
Right. They had multiple teams in the top 10, which was phenomenal. Yeah.
On Monday, Jeremiah will be recapping these fabulous national semifinal games, as well as previewing some of the games on Monday as well. We have the Rose Bowl between USC and Penn State, and then the Sugar Bowl between Auburn and Oklahoma. With that said, we'll take our last break of 2016. After the break, we'll be doing sort of a year in review in football, just in general, since it is our last episode of 2016. We'll do a year in review, and we'll be right back after the break at the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. And fortunately for this third segment, Ben had to leave us. We thought it's kind of a wild story to explain.
Well, basically, we had a power outage, and we thought everything went haywire, and we lost everything, and everything was bad. We were going to have to restart the whole thing, and Ben had another engagement that he had to go to. Turns out it was saved, and we're not as, computer illiterate as we thought we were, so now we still have the segments, but unfortunately, Ben is not with us.
We're not saying Ben is dead. I'm saying
no, Ben is just not physically with us in this room.
You got to get that going because the way you said Ben is no longer with us.
That's a fair point. All right, so moving on, we're going to do like a year in review for 2016, right? All right, so 2016 had a lot of things, be it, with the world, be it celebrities, be it with, those are my keys, be it with sports or anything else like that. So we're going to talk about, both of us, one thing that was kind of memorable in the sports year. For mine, I'm going to go kind of more sports-centric with mine, and I'm going to talk about the New England Patriots and more specifically about Deflategate, which lasted almost 2 years. Finally concluded this year. You had Tom Brady get suspended for the first 4 games of the regular season. I mean, you could talk all you want, it happened for 2 years about Deflategate, talk about whether or not that should have been a thing, how PSIs in football basically became more important than certain things with, be it Josh Brown or Ray Rice or whatever else like that. And, this whole thing finally culminated. The judge basically agreed with Brady, and then another judge agreed with the NFL, and then another judge agreed with the NFL. And, okay, best 2 out of 3 goes to the NFL, and he got suspended for 4 games. It didn't matter. The Patriots won 3 of those games. The only reason they didn't win the 4th game is because you had the third-string quarterback playing while he was hurt as well. Basically, the New England Patriots are kind of Teflon with what they do. They even lost Gronkowski this year, but they got Martellus Bennett, who's one of the better tight ends in the NFL, so they seem to be fine. They got Michael Floyd out of Arizona. Basically, everything that happened with Deflategate didn't really affect them that much because the week after that, or the game after that, I should say, that had happened, they won the Super Bowl against the Seahawks on that 1-yard pass play that Malcolm Butler intercepted. Then the next year, they still made it to the playoffs with the Deflategate looming, and then this year, they are only 2 losses right now, and they're in prime position to basically get the number 1 seed in the AFC again. They're going to have a first-round bye. Tom Brady still looks like Tom Brady. Bill Belichick still looks like Bill Belichick. No one really cares about Deflategate anymore outside of basically just talking about how the Patriots are cheaters. And the Patriots are still the Patriots. All right, let's go. The NFL is still the same.
Yeah, and Deflategate was dominating the news cycle for like months and months. We thought it wasn't going to end.
It was Tebow-esque, honestly, because how much it was actually covered.
It was kind of like Tebow-esque. That's all it was on the national media outlets was right. Deflategate. And there was another big story that dominated the media outlets outside of sports. It dominated CNN, Fox News, right. Those type of news cycles. And that is none other than Colin Kaepernick. He was the most talked about NFL player before the season.
Oh, yeah, by far.
That was due to his kneeling during the national anthem, movement. And what he did, outside of football was incredible this year. Like I'm not saying I'm agreeing or disagreeing with his movement, but his movement really transcended the sport in ways I've never seen before, and ever. A lot more people talked about football that weren't the average fan. People that didn't even watch football, right, talked about Colin Kaepernick.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, they weren't necessarily talking about football. They were talking about Colin Kaepernick, who played football.
They were talking about Colin Kaepernick, the activist,
right.
And I kind of think, it's amazing how this happened because he was in he was kind of in a contract year, so to speak.
Well,
he still had that really big contract that he signed from a few years ago, but the 49ers and Colin Kaepernick, they agreed to a restructured deal, which he can opt out of this year, which I think he is going to do because I don't think he wants to be with that organization due to the front office. But his movement got so much attention. It got the NFL a lot of attention, actually. Other players started to join in on it because I know there was a game, I think the first game of the season, when the Miami Dolphins, a couple like Arian Foster and some other players were kneeling, and then went, I think his former teammates in Nevada, Brandon Marshall, the linebacker for the Broncos, got in it as well.
Yeah.
He actually lost an endorsement deal because of that. Brandon Marshall did. But yeah, Colin Kaepernick was probably the most defining player of 2016. When you think of NFL of 2016, I think you think of Colin Kaepernick, of so much attention he bring. And when this is when he did all this when he was still a backup,
right?
Because Blaine Gabbert started as the 49ers quarterback this year. I don't know why that happened. I'm going to forget that even happened, that Blaine Gabbert was to start in the NFL in 2016, but it happened.
I mean, he wasn't great, but to be fair, Kaepernick wouldn't have helped that much either with that team that they had.
And Colin Kaepernick didn't help at all. And don't get me wrong, on the field, Colin Kaepernick I think he's been the 49ers' best player. I think he's been their best player.
And, I mean, that bar is very low, but
and
sure.
That's nothing against the 49ers. I actually do think Colin Kaepernick was the best player, and if Colin Kaepernick actually had a team around him, I think the 49ers would have been a really good team. Because just look at the talent that the 49ers...
Well, you saw what they had before with the talent that they had.
Exactly. Like when Colin Kaepernick won, they're probably one of the most talented teams in the NFL. Now they're kind of debatable as the worst team with the Browns in the NFL. But I think he's been the best player. As of right now, he has 15 touchdowns. Only has thrown 4 interceptions. He has thrown over 2,000 yards. And
he's rushed for 452 yards. Yeah. No, he's been like a good enough player, right?
And his average rushing the ball is 7.1, which is pretty good. And this is in the Chip Kelly offense, so I kind of knew these numbers would happen. But he just doesn't have a team around him.
And he's been, like you said, one of the top stories. Deflategate was a story. The Cowboys with Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott, they've been a top story this year. There's been a lot of stories that have been, given a lot of attention. Right now with the Cowboys, there are a lot of, because Tony Romo and whether or not he should start or not. Dak Prescott having a great rookie season, same with Ezekiel Elliott, and everything else that's happened this year, from Jason Pierre-Paul coming back with his mangled hand, to Aaron Rodgers, to Kirk Cousins and what he could do with Washington. There's been a lot of stories, but probably the number one, like you said, above all of them, just for everything that the NFL encompasses, like him playing, his activism, which, you can agree, disagree, whatever, but that was absolutely something that a lot of people were talking about and very fired up about. So
I think but the breakout star before we go, I want to talk about the breakout star of the year. I have to talk about Tyreek Hill, the Kansas City Chiefs. He came out of nowhere, around November or October. He has been an integral part of the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs offense. He brings a whole nother element that team hasn't had in a while, and he brings a whole nother element that Alex Smith I don't think has ever had in his career. With Travis Kelce, the way that he has dominated the tight end position, we said earlier, he's probably one of the top 2 tight ends in the game. Tyreek Hill, he does so much. They involve him in the rushing game, they involve him in the passing game, and I think he's probably the breakout star, and I think he's going to get even more attention in the playoffs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
But, that's our 2016 year in review, and that's our final show for 2016, the football podcast, that is. You got anything else to say before we go?
No, 2016 been a weird year. You like to, remember some of the athletes that we had that passed away, be it Muhammad Ali, Arnold Palmer, Jose Fernandez, a lot of people, Denny Green, Buddy Ryan, the big defensive coordinator for the 85 Bears team. A lot of memorable athletes, passed away this year, and 2016 has been a pretty interesting year. 2017 probably won't be anything different, but with that said, we will say goodbye to you guys. We will be back next week in 2017 to talk about probably Week 17 and what happened there, the playoff matchups that are going on coming this next weekend.
And we're going to be talking, I'm going to be talking about this weekend's playoff matchups. And pretty much recapping action in the NFL.
Yep.
But as far as it's been a good year, 2016. See you later. 2017, hello. All right, thank you guys for tuning in to the Clemson Media Concepts Football Podcast, and we'll be back next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.